So, what happens when a global superstar, a massive newspaper, and a really personal secret all end up in a courtroom clash? Well, today, we're going to dive into one of the biggest, most influential privacy cases in modern British history. And believe me, it all kicks off with one very, very public statement. So picture this. It's the early 2000s. And that was the hard line, the public stance from supermodel Naomi Campbell. I mean, she was on top of the world, and she told anyone who would listen again and again that she did not use illegal drugs. This wasn't just a casual denial. It was a cornerstone of her meticulously crafted public image. And right there, that's the real tension at the heart of this whole story. Because you see, while Naomi Campbell was publicly saying one thing, she was privately and bravely getting help for a problem. And a major tabloid was about to blow that secret wide open in the most sensational way you can imagine. Okay, so first things first, let's really dig into that public persona. You could say Act 1 of this whole drama is all about the image, the face that Naomi Campbell showed the world. You have to remember, at this point, Naomi Campbell wasn't just a model. She was the supermodel, an absolute icon. Her image wasn't just a picture, it was her entire brand, and she guarded it like a fortress. So when she denied using drugs, she wasn't just telling a fib. She was defending her empire, building up this image of total control and perfection. And this is where everything changes. In February 2001, the Daily Mirror newspaper drops an absolute bombshell. We're talking a front-page story that just completely shattered her private world. Now, this wasn't just some vague rumor. No way. The level of detail they published was just staggering. They laid it all out. The fact that she had an addiction, that she was going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings to get help, and then the real kicker. They published a secretly snapped photo of her leaving one of those meetings, looking vulnerable and exposed. So what does Campbell do? She decides to fight back. Hard. She sues the newspaper. And just like that, the stage is set for this huge legal battle. And this was about so much more than just one celebrity's secret. It was a clash of titans, a real conflict between two massive, fundamental rights. So you've got the courts stuck right in the middle of this massive dilemma. On one hand, you have the right to a private life. It's a basic human right. Everyone gets to have a personal space. But on the other hand, you've got freedom of speech, the right for the press to report on things. So the big question became, when these two powerful rights go head-to-head, which one comes out on top? The legal weapon Campbell's lawyers chose to use was something called breach of confidence. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. They basically argued, hey, information about someone's health, their medical treatment, that's confidential, period. And the newspaper had absolutely no right to just splash it all over the front page. But listen, this was not a slam dunk, not even close. First, she goes to the high court, and she loses. The judge basically says the public's interest in knowing she lied was more important. So she appeals. She goes to the Court of Appeal, and she loses again. At this point, it really looks like it's all over. But she doesn't give up. She takes her fight to the absolute highest court in the land, the House of Lords. And that's where everything, and I mean everything, gets turned on its head. And that brings us to the grand finale, the decision that would literally rewrite the rules. The House of Lords had a really tough job here. It was a delicate balancing act. They couldn't just say, you're right, you're wrong. Instead, they had to draw a very, very careful line in the sand. So here's the breakdown of what the court decided. They said, okay, since Campbell had publicly lied, the Mirror did have a right to set the record straight and report the fact of her addiction. But, and this is the really important bit, they went way too far. Publishing the details of her treatment, the location of her support group meetings, and especially that secret photograph? Nope. The court said that crossed a major line. That wasn't public interest anymore. That was a flat-out invasion of her privacy. And the key takeaway, the principle that the top judges really hammered home, was this. Information about your health is in a special, protected category. It's intensely private. For a newspaper to publish that stuff, they need a ridiculously good reason, a powerful public interest. And in this case, the Mirror just didn't have one. That photo, especially, was seen as not just intrusive but genuinely harmful because it could scare other people away from getting the help they need. So why are we still talking about a case from over 2 decades ago? Well, because its impact was, frankly, enormous. It completely changed the game for media law in the UK. It redrew the map for privacy rights and totally shifted the balance of power between the press and, well, everyone else. So, what did this case actually establish? Well, a few huge things. First, it seriously beefed up privacy rights against the press. It locked in the idea that medical info is off limits without a massive justification. It also made it crystal clear that even famous people, public figures, have a right to a private life in certain areas. And maybe most importantly, it showed that just publishing one single photo can be enough to cross that line and break the law. When you boil it all down, the ruling sent a powerful, unmistakable message to the media. There is a line, and that line is there to protect the most personal, most vulnerable details of a person's life, no matter how famous they are. It basically carved out a new zone of privacy, a safe space, away from the constant glare of the media spotlight. Which, of course, leaves us with one big question for today. Think about it. Over 20 years later, in our world of social media, of constant updates and sharing everything, has that line that this case so carefully drew been completely erased? In the age of the internet, is there even a line left to cross?